Hello, Anatomy. Welcome to what is our second video on Chapter 7, the nervous system. So in our first video, just to review, we talked about the anatomy and physiology of a nerve cell, of a neuron, how nerves were structured and how they would send signals called action potentials down the axon of a nerve, and how those signals would get to the end in what's called the synaptic cleft, and how chemicals called neurotransmitters would transmit the signals from one neuron to the next neuron. In the third video, we're going to go through the anatomy of the brain. So this second video is going to be a shorter video, and it's going to be on a topic that links those two topics together very well, nerves and then to the brain through neurotransmitters. And the topic is going to be drugs, how drugs like opioids or things like meth, how they affect the brain. It's a pretty timely topic because right now we're obviously in the midst of a very serious opioid epidemic in the United States. So let's talk about what these drugs are and how they work. So drugs like heroin, cocaine, fentanyl, prescription pills like hydrocodone, drugs like morphine, these are drugs called opioids that affect the chemistry of your brain in the following way. So if you look at this picture, this is talking about heroin, but it could be any opioid. So this is looking at a neuron that sends a signal that is pain. You have neurons in your body that detect pain. And you know, pain is an important signal because when your body experiences pain, there's probably some kind of cellular damage going on. So it's your body's way of saying, you know, whatever you're doing, stop, because you're doing damage to your cells or to your tissues. So in this diagram I have the presynaptic neuron, and the substance labeled P would just be a neurotransmitter. Maybe it's acetylcholine, maybe it's dopamine, whatever it is, but it's a chemical that sends the signal from one neuron to the next neuron, okay? Here you can see the little triangle neurotransmitters. These sort of green oblong things would be the receptors in the postsynaptic neuron, which P would bind to send the pain signal from one neuron to the next. So in this diagram, what's happening is heroin, which is an opioid, is a chemical that also binds to these receptors. And when it binds to these receptors, the pain signal, the pain neurotransmitter gets blocked. So when you're on opioids, what you're doing is you're blocking the body's ability, the brain's ability really, to transmit signals of pain. So when you're on these drugs, you know, maybe you're doing this because someone had surgery, maybe they had their wisdom teeth removed, and you want to numb them, you want them to not feel pain. The pain is there, whatever damage that's happening is there, but you can't perceive the pain because you're blocking these receptors. And again, you might want to do that if someone's had surgery or something. The issue here though is you know, the pain's been masked, the pain, you know, isn't being sent, but the pain hasn't gone away. In comparison, like if you have a headache, if you take a drug like Advil or Tylenol, those are anti-inflammatory drugs, and Advil and Tylenol, you know, if you have a headache, you have inflammation in your head, like in the blood vessels of your head. The Tylenol or Advil actually like reduces the inflammation. It makes the pain literally go away. It solves the problem, at least it's whatever's causing the headache. Opioids, they don't take care of the pain, they only mask it. So once the opioid wears off, unless the pain's, you know, miraculously healed itself, you know, the pain will come back. If you have your wisdom teeth out, you might take hydrocodone or something for, you know, for a day or two, when the pain would be pretty intense. But after a couple of days, your body is healed enough to where taking something like Advil is probably good enough. Okay. Now, so the question might be, so why is that so bad? Why not just take the opioid until everything's healed and you're fine? Well, here's the problem. Your brain can become chemically dependent on these drugs. So let me give you an example. So you see in this picture, there are 6 receptors, and 3 of them are filled, or I can't count. There's 6 receptors, and 4 of them are filled with heroin. So think of it this way. Your body is always trying to define normal. Your body is always looking for homeostasis, all right? So in this picture, I have 6 receptors, 4 of them are full of heroin, and your body will adjust itself to interpret that as the normal natural state. Now in this state, you don't feel any pain. Now the body normally would feel pain. So if you're in this situation for a long enough time, your body can actually change the number of receptors. It can cause more receptors or have fewer receptors to try and redefine normal, all right? And normal is you can feel pain, right? So if you're in this state for a long enough period of time, and it could be after one dose of opioids, to be honest, what your body does is it changes the number of receptors, which results in you being way more sensitive to pain. So think of it this way: if you desensitize yourself to pain, that's not normal. Your body readjusts normal, which would be to make you way more sensitive to pain. And you might be in a case where, you know, you've seen people, or you've seen the billboards of people who've been on meth, or you've heard stories of people tearing their eyes out of their eye sockets or scratching their skin off. They feel like there's ants on them, like their skin's on fire. The weight of their clothes causes them incredible pain because their body has reacted to having the opioid, and that it makes the body, the brain makes the body way more sensitive to pain. Okay. Now withdrawal, you know, when you stop taking the drug, suddenly you have an imbalance of receptors to neurotransmitters, and so you always feel bad. And withdrawal would be the period of time, it might take months, for your body to go back to what was normal. All right. For your body to redefine normal without being on the opioids, and it causes you to be in a lot of pain. Okay, that's what chemical withdrawal is in the brain when you come off these opioids. Okay, so that's one way that opioids like morphine or heroin or cocaine affect the brain. So another one is shown in these diagrams. So dopamine is another neurotransmitter that your body uses to send signals, and dopamine is part of what's called the reward center or the pleasure centers of your brain. If you look in this diagram, you can see neurotransmitters, in this case dopamine, binding with dopamine receptors. So the reward pathways of your brain has evolved in such a way that there are certain things that when you do them, your brain wants to reward you for it. Eating, when you eat, you get a small dose of dopamine, which makes you feel good. If you think about that from an evolutionary perspective, your body wants to reward you for eating because it keeps you alive. Having sex also activates the dopamine pathways of your brain because having sex propagates the species. So your brain rewards you for that. You feel good. The runner's high, which is one that I've personally never experienced, but the runner's high is a release of dopamine in your brain. And from an evolutionary standpoint, you could think of it as if you've stressed yourself to run that much that fast, you were probably like running from a predator. Picture humans evolving on the plains of Africa, and you're running from some kind of predator. You have two choices: either you get eaten and you die, or you don't die. So your body sort of rewards you for the effort you expended to run away from the cheetah with the dopamine pathways of your brain. So again, things like eating, the runner's high, sex, the things that cause your brain to release dopamine, okay? It's a natural part of your brain's chemistry. So in this second picture, this is someone that's on cocaine, and you can see that the synapse here, this is the presynaptic neuron, this is the postsynaptic neuron. The synapse is flooded with cocaine, which basically mimics dopamine. So if you're in this state, you feel great, like you feel euphoria because your brain's been flooded with cocaine or some kind of dopamine mimic. Now the problem is, like I said earlier, is your brain's always trying to define normal. So if you're in this state for a long enough period of time, which again could be after one dose of the drug, then your body thinks it's normal, and then your body needs this much cocaine or dopamine in your synapse for you to feel normal. And there's an expression you use when talking about drug addiction called chasing the first high. So picture like the first time someone gets high, say on cocaine or morphine or whatever, that this is what it looks like, all right? And you feel great. Well, your body adjusts to that. Your body might change the number of receptors in the postsynaptic neuron because it's trying to redefine normal. And so for you to feel that same level of high a second time, you had to take more of the drug. And chasing the first high is that you never feel as good as you did the first time you took the drug. And for people who are serious addicts, you get to a point when you aren't on the drug, you feel so bad, you're in withdrawal, that you take the drug just to feel normal. So people who might be meth addicts or crack addicts, they're taking the drug not really to feel euphoria or to feel high. They're taking it to feel normal, to feel like you or I might feel right now, not having any, synthetic dopamine in your synapses. All right, chasing the first high. So the last thing I want to discuss, so you've probably heard of the drug Narcan. Naloxone is the name of the chemical. Narcan is the brand name of the drug. So people that overdose on opioids and die, this is a serious thing in our society. So opioid overdoses, you can mess with your brain's chemistry so much that your brain stops telling your heart to beat or your lungs to breathe, and you die. Narcan is called an opioid antagonist, and if you look at this picture, here's my receptor of this green thing. Here's a sort of red, pink, whatever color that is. That's the opioid, and they bind. All right. This is being high. The way that Narcan works is Narcan or naloxone is this grape-looking molecule. It also binds to the receptor, and it sort of actively competes with the opioid. It kind of like knocks it off, so the opioid can't bind as tightly. And what it does is it basically prevents the opioid from killing you. It prevents you from overdosing to where you die, but it doesn't like stop the high. It doesn't make the withdrawal any better. It just like temporarily slows down the overdose so that you don't die from it. It's like a short-term thing to keep you from dying, but it doesn't actually help with the addiction or with the pains of withdrawal. Narcan is a drug. In some states, you can buy it over the counter. Policemen have it very common because they'll, I heard a story a while ago of certain restaurants training their waiters and waitresses on Narcan. It's kind of like a EpiPen. You just inject it because they would go in the bathroom of the restaurant, the waiters would, and find people who are on the floor overdosed and dying because they had gone in the bathroom to take drugs. And again, Narcan is it's an important drug to have because it stops the overdose, but it doesn't help you with the withdrawal or with the addiction. Okay, so we're going to stop there. Like I said, that was a short one. That connects the idea of neurotransmitters to drugs into the blood, not the blood, the chemistry of your brain for chapter 7. All right, hope that was helpful. I will see you guys next time.